So welcome everyone. I guess we could just get started. Can everyone see the slides? Or can you hear me? Okay.
Hey, Suvanita, we can hear you, but your slides just went away.
Okay, because apparently I'm not able to see both my slides and the text. So are you able to monitor the chat?
Absolutely, yeah, I'll definitely do that. And I'll let you know if any questions come up.
Okay, sounds good, because it won't let me do both windows for some reason.
No problem.
Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Suvanita Dongadam. I work at Wake Tech Community College, and I'm the RASS, one of the RASS directors at large.
We're not able to see your slides. I'm sorry.
Oh, what's going on now?
There should be like a green share screen button at the bottom of your window.
Try it again.
You got it. There you go.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
All right, so I'll just play it from. Okay, so that's RASS, and then. So today we're just going to talk a little bit about library programming. Since I'm at a community college, I'm probably going to mostly talk about academic ones. We do serve some of the public, so sometimes we open it to community users as well. But if you have other programming ideas, feel free to share with everyone. So some of the benefits of offering library programming. Sorry for the alarm there, it's like a clock that's in my house. So library is as a place, like the National Library Week, that's the theme for this year. People come to the library for information resources, as well as training to hopefully improve their skills or their lives in general. It's also like a collective sharing space, so people can share their ideas as well as learn from other people. So sometimes it's like a community type space. It's a good time for outreach. So if you haven't built other partnerships with people in your community, you can use programming to do that. I saw some libraries used it for fundraising as well to get grant monies and other funds to support other programs that your library offers. So for the programming ideas, I kind of divided based on purpose of the specific program as the ones that I've seen through my internet search, as well as some that we have covered at our library. So before going to the ideas, we just want to look at some factors, how you would choose programming at your library. The ones that we selected are based on mainly, since we are an academic library, they do cover some type of academic nature, because that's the majority of our user population. You might also want to consider the audience, like who your creating the programs for, as well as how many staff members that you have to support various programs that your library is planning to offer. And also, depending on staff size, maybe the level of engagement. So if you want a really interactive program, it may utilize a lot of your staff members that you might be needing for another specific area. So there's plenty of ideas and examples from other libraries, so definitely do a general web search while you're trying to explore ideas, programming ideas for your library, because usually you don't really have to reinvent the wheel if you're creating them. Usually someone has created one, you can modify those, so the planning process doesn't take as long. So you can offer programs that highlight specific programs or collection areas within your library by offering like different type of workshops. A lot of libraries offer author talks, so you can invite an author and then gear the program around that, as well as use it to highlight your specific collections that maybe don't get a lot of circulation usage or something. You could also do discussions. Last semester we had like a censorship type discussion, and then we also did a banned books one. So for the banned books, we actually banned one of our librarians have written a book, so we just banned one of their books, and then we posted on social media to see what kind of responses people would get, and then that kind of started the engagement and discussion on censorship. And then we also provided a program on censorship that was within the library. Immersive simulations, we have done different program events like the Human Library. We collaborated with that venture to, and if you don't know, the Human Library is like challenging different stereotypes that people may have. So people were the actual books, and then they would have like a little short description so that you can go and talk to those books specifically and learn about how their lives are different. And then it like, so then it kind of bursted some people's like stereotypes of what they thought that person's story was. So we also offer webinars, so some technology information. You could also provide those, and then people could learn as a group on how to do certain things, or you might want to highlight specific resources in your community or at your institution. Other simulations we have done a poverty simulation as well. So people were put in like families, and they had to be within the simulation. They were given like specifics on specific families that they were, and then they would have to imagine that they were living those people's lives and how that would go. And then after that, we actually have a discussion on their thoughts and any feedback that they wanted to provide. And then it actually leads to how to make changes within your community based on the resources that your community or county offers, and then what other ones that you think that they should offer. Has anyone else done other programs that may be highlighting your specific collections? Other de-stress activities, we usually offer these. Being an academic one, we usually offer it during midterms as well as finals. So definitely we have pet therapy. So we do invite dogs to come over on campus, and people can cuddle with them and interact with them. And we've done that for a few years now, so we do have some best practice or whatever that we're definitely willing to share if you plan on maybe offering this type of program at your library. We used to just offer the puzzles during midterms and finals, but it's super popular, so we usually tend to just leave it out of the counter, and then people can play with the puzzles whenever they want to. Same thing with the coloring pages. We have offered origami before, and then sometimes it's actually tied with a maker type workshop. This semester, we're actually going to try the mindfulness workshop. So we invited a faculty member that normally gives the mindfulness workshop. So they're actually going to come down to the library and then offer insights on that, as well as lead a meditative practice or a mindfulness practice. I think in other locations, we have offered the yoga before. We have massage therapy at our community college, so we can actually invite them over, and they usually come over for finals and midterms to offer chair massages to people. I've seen other places offer the Tai Chi or stretching, walking stations similar to treadmills, not as strenuous, obviously. And at our library, we do have fit bikes as well. So games are pretty popular. Sometimes we offer game night or have like board games that people could check out, and then they could work together in small groups and play those. Of course, food is always a big draw for most programs, so offering snacks or drinks are a good way to draw people in. Programs are actually a good way to locate collaborative partners. So most times that if you want to offer more to your programming, sometimes we usually have to collaborate with other departments to seek additional funding. I mentioned previously in Author Talk, we are inviting an author over. So we had a collaborative funding with student services. So they're actually gonna help us pay for the author, as well as any refreshments that are associated with it, as well as swag items to promote the library and things like that to help draw in participants. You could always look for authors that are just within your community, so the cost is not as much for those. I mean, we all want to know a well-known author, but sometimes that's not always possible. Storytelling, we did offer a showcase of storytelling last semester. We collaborated with the drama department, and students that were in that class came over to the library and did interactive interpretations of various fairy tales and stories, which a lot of people attended, so that was pretty popular, so I'll probably offer it on a different semester. We also have an art wall within the library, so we've been inviting students and faculty to come in and showcase their work. It's always been an idea of mine to give people a real world experience. So hopefully we can have like an art reception or something at the art wall, so that students, the artists can actually speak about their work like they would in the real world, and give them like some practice on doing that kind of thing as well. Resource fairs. We're actually planning on, for a diversity fair, we plan on inviting student clubs over to the library, and then they could showcase what their club does, and then hopefully get other participants to join their club, and be a way of marketing that specific club, as well as letting other students know what's available on campus. And I think a resources fair may be a good one to highlight specific departments or specific community resources that may be available for patrons that are not aware that these are available to them. And most of those partners or organizations are happy to come over to the library to help promote the services and resources that they offer. Oops. Oh, it's going the wrong way. So interactive programs, I just categorize these as being more labor intensive for staff purposes. You would have to have people that are trained in offering these types of programs, as well as you might have a lot more staff time to actually running these specific programs. Maker spaces are pretty popular now, even if you don't have a large enough space for all the specific technology and equipment that's required in a makerspace. Some libraries just set up maker stations or just have workshops that are related to making things. So other ones I've seen are like podcasts, how you do them, like photography type tips and tricks of those. Button making is super popular. Most, like for ours, we have early college students as well. So most students just like making buttons. Now they can like design their own and create like specific buttons for that. And the supplies are pretty relatively inexpensive to doing that, as opposed to some of the other 3D printing makerspace types of things. Makerspace, you could also offer sewing type workshops, crafty type workshops. I've seen some people offer jewelry making. There's knitting or quilting and crocheting type workshops that you could offer. So that's more into like the how-tos and pop-ups as an inexpensive way for a makerspace type. Game night, I've seen a lot of people offer that. We did try it last semester with like board games and other coding type activities that and STEM type activities that people seem to really gravitate to. Other libraries, public libraries mostly, I've seen offer the life-size games. So the people would act as the game pieces, and then they would play the games as if they were interactive inside the games themselves. The sample life-size games that I've seen are Candyland, Life, Jenga, Connect 4, Tic-Tac-Toe, those kind of games. I even saw Hungry Hungry Hippo. I've never seen that one played as a life-size one, so I thought that would look kind of interesting. Also popular are the murder mystery type games, as well as escape rooms. And there's usually plenty of examples of those on the internet as well, of how they set it up and the quizzes and puzzles that are associated with them. And of course, then there's the more passive programs that are not usually, it doesn't usually require a library staff to run them. And they usually are function alone, so students can just learn about the library and without having staff involvement as much. You only have staff involvement on the front end as opposed to within the program. So of course, scavenger hunts. This past few semesters, we've been running an Amazing Race type scavenger hunt where people go through the library and solve puzzles, and it's specifically just like the actual TV show. That's what it's based on. There's also displays, so you can do monthly themes or holidays. For February, we did Blind Date with a Book, and that was pretty popular. So the book jar is pretty popular, and we have one similar to that in case you want to read a book from a genre that you're less familiar with. You actually could just choose one from the jar and it gives you a suggestion. So does anyone have any other programming ideas that they have tried and how those went?
So I know we do therapy pets a lot. I believe when I was a grad student at UNC, I think their health sciences library actually brought in like a therapy horse, like a mini horse.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool. We have dogs, and there's the group we work with also has cats that they will sometimes bring in. So yeah, I think these are all really great. If other people want to unmute themselves or put things in the chat, I can definitely help you with that. Buzz sessions are definitely open to discussion.
Yeah, we always wanted cats, but our campus doesn't allow us to have cats.
This is Jennifer Mincy. I'm also at Wake Tech, and I just want to go ahead and say, and hi, Suvanita.
Hi.
We've also been kind of experimenting with like online programming. We this semester did a webinar where we got partners in other departments, and we just used Microsoft Teams that we have, and we did the equivalent of one of these Zoom meetings, and we just did a recording of it while live streaming it. Not as tech savvy as I should be, so it didn't go quite as planned, but definitely got good practice in and a lot of interest generated.
Yeah,
we're planning to get that on next time, so hopefully it'll go better.
We're doing virtual meditation sessions just for library staff since we're mostly working remote right now. We had the first one this morning and I think it went really well. So we're having another 3:30 and like just sort of virtual sanity events. We're trying to like programming just sort of for staff, but I think it's going to help.
Yeah, that's always good to have it for staff too. Especially during this time, at least you can actually see people and whatever, as opposed to just being remote on your own little island. So if no one else has any other programming ideas at this time, I guess I'll go on to the next section. So advertising your program. So you want to try to get the most participants to come to your program as you can. So a lot of times we post the information as like a flyer or a graphic photo image on the library website, as well as post it to any of the social media networks that your library or college uses. Newsletters could be print or electronic for both the people that come visit your library as well as those that just check out your website. So we have a communications department, so we send a lot of our promoting our events through there so that they can do an email, they have an email list so they can blast that information to all students and employees to hopefully generate more interest as well as more attendees. Flyers are always still good. Bookmarks are good as well. A lot of students they ask for bookmarks. So that might be a good opportunity to put some of the programming ones that are upcoming programs on there. So it'll be for a dual usage. So after you've done your program, you've planned it, you're advertising, you gave your program. So you probably think that, oh yeah, that's it, I'm done, what a relief. So actually, you probably also, after your program, you definitely want to try to do some kind of measure for success. So when you give the program, make sure that you count how many people that attended. Maybe look at circulation statistics. If it was one to highlight specific collections, you might want to see if there's an uptick in the number of books that are checked out on that topic for that subject area. Of course, definitely do user experience surveys on the people, maybe an after survey. Like for example, for the race, we did an after, a follow-up survey to gauge how the race went. Did they learn anything new about the library, what they did or didn't know before they ran the race? Those are always super helpful feedback for the next time that you give it, as well as if you're trying to get additional funding to make sure to get like more prizes or more advertising or more engagement for the specific program that requires more funding. It's always good to be able to provide that type of statistics. So here are some of the additional resources that were on there. There's a lot of readings that were on the walk stations, the fit desk. I thought the fit desk relay was interesting. So if you had a fit bike or any other type of exercise equipment, you could always develop a race or a specific program on those. I always usually get most of my ideas from like the programming libraries page. So at the network, you can just share ideas on there. They also have ideas on there that are people have already done and what they thought about and how it went on there. So I thought that was really good. It kind of looks like Pinterest pretty much, but it's similar to that. But a lot of people share the actual flyers that they use for the specific programs. So that way you can just modify those for your library instead of having to create a whole new flyer or advertisement. So those are the information that I had. Does anyone have any questions or you want to share any other programs that work for you that we might want to do at our library as well?
So this is Jennifer Mincy again. I really just wanted to say that I enjoyed the game night that we had. It was STEM themed, so it was kind of things like Mousetrap, Rube Goldberg device kind of thing, and actually not STEM, STEAM, because we had win, lose, or draw, and a funny Da Vinci logic game that involved drawing as well. And as mentioned, we had some coding games on tablets for some droids that I had that I brought in that belonged to my sons. And there was a lot of positive feedback from the students who were able to attend. They really enjoyed because it was fun, but it was also kind of tied into that STEAM teaching thing.
Yeah, and this time we were actually going to try to do like a game demo. We collaborated with the simulation and game department and the student club. Apparently they create games and they develop their own games, and they were looking for people to give feedback on these games. So they were going to come and demo their games, and then other students would have the opportunity to play and test their games and help them out with that project.
Suvanita, in the chat, there's a question. For the passive programs, how do you monitor attendance or participation?
So the passive programs, let me put them. So for the book jar one, we do an actual count on it before we put them in the jars, so that we know how many recommendations were in there, and then we count them at the end, and then we see how many people have taken the recommendation little slips of paper, and then we usually change those recommendations. Usually it goes with the book display, so if we're doing a young adult book display. The recommendations are on just all young adult books on the various genres for them. The races that we have done with the scavenger hunt and the amazing race, we check out those items to students that are running the race. So we use our iOS and we just run a report on there to determine how many times each item was checked out. For the book display ones, most of the ones that are on display, we change their location to displays, and that way you're able to run a report on during a certain specific time frame, how many of those books were checked out. Does that answer that person's question?
Yes, they say yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, good question. Yeah, for all the programs, I usually try to get some kind of statistics, whether it be quantitative or qualitative. It's usually important information that admin wants to know, depending on, so that they can gauge the success of the program and other departments can determine if they want to join in the collaborative efforts and where they want to put their funding.
I just wanted to say with the, oh, sorry, this is Jennifer again. I just wanted to say that with the Amazing Race, the way we did that, there were 4 different packs that the students checked out. So we got a circulation statistics for each of those packs. And like they had a red pack, a green pack, a gold pack, you know. And so we could compare how many of the first pack were checked out and compare it to how many of the last pack were checked out. And it'll also show us who dropped out during the process.
Yeah, so it's good to see how many people started the race, and you can compare it to how many finished it or how far they got. But I believe all the racers got a follow-up survey after, because I had to notify the winners of the race as well as what their thoughts were. Since we piloted the program, we want to know what their feedback was and whether we should do it again.
So someone else in the chat says, I'll be interested to see what ideas libraries come up with for online programming over the next few weeks. And I definitely agree with that, and I'm excited to see that too.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that as well. I think some people on the programming library, and they were talking about displays on there about the virus and how they were doing displays for that too. So I'm sure as more time goes on, you know, people are formulating their ideas. Maybe others will share their ideas on there as well.
I think with the NCLA marketing committee, which I work with, we're going to do like a look at what's available on the NC digital library or like NC Live in terms of ebooks, and maybe do some recommendations that way, like things that we know that everybody can access. Someone else in the chat is saying, are these programs taking place inside the library? I was thinking of trying a community scavenger hunt where patrons would go out in the community and find local landmarks or something similar. Has anyone tried this?
I think at another library, they did a scavenger hunt that was all across campus. So I guess it's similar to the community, and they got other departments to participate so that they were, had some kind of insight onto specific legs or stopping points on each part of the race, or they could promote their resources. So I thought that was really good too.
And I put in the chat, sort of as a response, there's a really great scavenger hunt app called Goose Chase that I've used a lot. I'm happy to talk to anybody about that. The person who asked the question that you just answered said, has that been well received?
It was well received. A lot of people did run it. I think we had 30 some people that ran the first race. It did get a lot of traction when faculty members promoted it within their class as well. And I believe some faculty member gave extra credit. So because it's kind of like library orientation, except they don't have to create the questions.
Are there other questions? You could put them in the chat or ask. And while we're waiting, I'm going to drop the link to the RASS Facebook page. That's a really long link. That worked. If you're interested in being more involved with our future stuff, you can do that. But we have plenty of time if people have questions.
There's the link for RASS too.
I don't know why the one I pulled is so incredibly long, but anyway.
I don't know. I think I got yours from that Facebook one that you had. So I just copied it. I think if you went to the NCLA page and then you just looked for RASS, you can get directly to our page there too.
So there was a question in the chat, is Goose Chase free? So there is a free version, and I've done lots of workarounds to not have to pay money for it. So yes, it is free to an extent. If you want to do fancy stuff with it, there are paid options, but there are plenty of ways to get away with making it free. If that's something of interest, we could definitely do like maybe some resources on that in the future.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's an app. It's also just goosechase.com. I haven't used it in a couple months, but have had some good experiences with it in the past. There's definitely a learning curve, but well, if there aren't other questions, just to say the recording is going to be shared with people in a few days. I've heard that Zoom is really backed up right now, and so recordings are being processed slowly. But as soon as I have it, I will send it to everyone who signed up, and we'll post it in all the usual places as well. And it will be captioned eventually.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. That would be great. Yeah, I heard that about all the other ones too, like WebEx too. That everyone's slow and getting accounts and things like that.
Yeah, and thanks for your flexibility in switching to Zoom, everybody. WebEx was having some audio issues, and I think they're still having that.
I think maybe they're just overloaded.
I would imagine, yeah. Thanks, everybody. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.